Well, it's time now to turn our attention over to the weather. We check in now with meteorologist Eric Hunt. Eric, viewers in the Panhandle might want a break from some of the rain and storms we've seen out west, while those in Eastern Nebraska still holding their breath for rain. I'm guessing the latest drought monitor is going to reflect that sentiment, isn't it?
Well, thank you, Bryce. Yes, Western Nebraska actually probably would welcome a little break with the thunderstorms. The good news is the rain out there is actually showing up with some improvements in the latest drought monitor that was released on Thursday morning. So most of northwestern Nebraska is now actually free of both drought and abnormal dryness for the first time in a long time. The bad news, though, is eastern Nebraska, we've seen degradation, so expansion of extreme drought into Gage and Jefferson counties, and we've seen exceptional drought push into western Cass counties, and for the first time on record, we've seen some exceptional drought moving into western part of Omaha. This is reflected in the veg dry. This is kind of a outlook at vegetation. So we actually see the worst conditions are kind of between Aurora and Seward and down to Saline County. Just hearing from extension personnel in those areas, lots of stories about crops that are near death or will be there soon without rain. The good news is a lot of places did pick up adequate precipitation on Thursday mornings, and we have good chances going forward. So one thing we have avoided so far this year has been extreme heat, but Wednesday was our first taste of some higher temperatures, or at least upper 90s temperatures across portions of eastern Nebraska, particularly in and around Lancaster County, where we saw upper 90s and 101 degrees at the Lincoln Airport. These were not record temperatures, but just given the severity of the drought, these temperatures were not welcome. Good news, though, is we did get some precipitation Thursday morning across a lot of the southern half of Nebraska, and with a ridge of high pressure kind of centered here over Texas, it's finally situated itself where we're actually getting some really good return flow, and with the trough coming in from the west, we actually are in a situation for the next few days or this weekend where we actually should get adequate precipitation across most of Nebraska and into Iowa, Illinois, and Indiana, where they also desperately need the moisture. This is also reflected in the European model. So we have model consensus that there actually should be fairly significant precipitation across a lot of our area for the next 3 days or through Sunday night. Looking at the 8 to 14-day outlook, we should have some troughing in the northern plains and northern upper Rockies. So we actually should be looking at reasonably cool temperatures for the time of year across western Nebraska and seasonal temperatures elsewhere. So good news here is I don't believe we should actually be looking at any real extreme heat, which is good, given the drought. Better news here is it looks like a good portion of our area, or most of the continental United States actually is looking at above average precipitation. So very good news here. My one word of caution is that we have seen signal for precipitation show up in the models routinely the growing season in the 10 to 14-day outlook that hasn't necessarily always materialized. So maybe take this with a little bit of grain of salt, but regardless, good news here to report today. Thanks. Back to you, Bryce.